Hello students, I'm Anita Abraham, Associate Professor of English. Welcome to the English classroom. This is video number 3 dated 18/7/2020. Today's English lesson is from Semester 3, Unit 1 of the General English curriculum prescribed by Osmania University for students of BA, BCom, B.Sc and BBA. Today's topic is from Unit 1 and is titled Vocabulary, Synonyms and Antonyms. If you liked my video, please subscribe and press the bell icon so that you get notification of subsequent videos. Let's get started. Before we start the lesson vocabulary, synonyms and antonyms, I would like to tell all my students that it is important for us to build our vocabulary. When you build your vocabulary, when you enhance the corpus of your words, what happens is you become effective communicators of the English language. Not only the English language, but any language that you want to learn. You will improve your speaking, listening, reading and writing skills, and you will also communicate very, very effectively in the language. So let's get started with our lesson for today, which is vocabulary, synonyms and antonyms. What are synonyms? Synonyms are words or phrases that have exactly the same or similar meaning as another word or phrase in the same language. And English, like other languages, abound with synonyms. But then, have you ever wondered why is it that there are two or more words with similar meanings? Why do they mean the same thing? For example, what is the difference between buy and purchase? What is the difference between need and require? What is the difference between gift and present? Or what's the difference between comprehend and understand, to name a few? Uh, to understand why there are so many synonyms in the English language, we need to understand certain things. And one of the most important thing is the source of English vocabulary. Majority of the English words come from two main sources, the Germanic languages and the Romance or the Latin-based languages. English is a Germanic language and it has a large number of words from Latin and French languages too. According to some estimates, 29% of the English words have Latin origin. Another 29 have French origin. 26% of the words in English are of Germanic origin. We have 6% of words in the English language from German origin, and we have words from other language just two in the English language, which is around 10%. So do you see, English language is an amalgamation of words from various languages. And what this means is that sometimes the original native word as well as the new foreign word which has entered into the language remains in use at the same time. So that's why we have synonyms in any language, that is words with similar meanings. For example, answer and response. Answer is of Germanic origin, response is of Latin origin. It's a Latinate word, okay? Ask is Germanic, inquire is Latin, begin is Germanic, commence is of Latin origin. Look at the words big and large, synonyms. They mean almost, they have similar meanings. Big is of Germanic origin and large is of Latin origin. Similarly, look at the words help and aid. Help is of Anglo-Saxon origin and aid comes from Old French. Similarly, weep and cry, they are synonyms. Weep is of Anglo-Saxon origin and cry is of French origin. Look at the synonyms forgive and pardon, words with similar meanings. Forgive comes from the Anglo-Saxon origin, and pardon has its root in French origin. Apart from this, we also must understand the history of England. French and Latin words entered the English language because the English speaking Anglo Saxons were invaded and ruled by the French speaking Anglo Normans for a few hundred years. Similarly, as Britain colonized and or conducted business with various parts of the world, it adopted many words from the languages of those countries or regions. For example, there are many Indian words in the English language. For example, words such as bungalow, cot, dacoit, jungle, shampoo, all this comes from Hindi or Urdu origin. Okay, although it is common to say that synonyms are words or phrases that have same meaning, we must also appreciate the fact that the words are not, exact replication for the other word. There are shades of meanings, and therefore one word cannot be blindly substituted for another. Also, each word has a slightly different weight and therefore should be used in the appropriate context. A heavy word cannot be used in a light context because it would make it meaningless. Okay? For example, to make it clearer, let's take the word beautiful. It has more than 20 synonyms, but they cannot all be used as substitutes for each other. Beautiful is generally used for describing women. Handsome is used for men. Good looking can be used for both men and women. Pretty, which is also a synonym for beautiful, is a little less than beautiful and is often used to describe children and young girls. Charming, okay, is another synonym for beautiful, but it has to do more with manners than with physical looks. Gorgeous is a synonym for beautiful, but gorgeous is a hyperbolic term, and unless it is used in the right context, it can become meaningless. So we must be very careful how we use these synonyms. Okay, so I hope you all have understood what is the origins of synonyms, why the English language has so many synonyms, and how important it is for us to use the right word in the right context. So let's move on to some exercises which are from your textbook. I'll do these exercises with you, exercises where we will use the appropriate word, appropriate synonym in the right place. Exercise 1. Fill in the blanks with the appropriate word. Example, she looked dash in the fancy dress. And you have the choices pretty and delightful, which are both synonyms. So you need to pick up the appropriate word. So the right word is pretty. She looked pretty in the fancy dress. Let's do the exercise. The first one, the china cups were brightly colored and dash. You have two synonyms here, dainty and bonny. So which would you use? Dainty. The china cups were brightly colored and dainty, delicate looking. Bonny is used for describing a healthy, cute baby, bonny babies. Okay, but then china cups are dainty. So, it is a physical, a non-living thing. Bonny you would use with a living thing like a baby, for example. So you remember using the right synonym in the right context. So it's very important. That's why I said building your vocabulary is important with reading and, picking up words and using it in the right context, understanding their meaning so that, you know where to use the right word. Let's look at the next fill in the blank. Disappointment was writ large on his dash face. beautiful, handsome. Now, his is giving you the clue. So, obviously, we are talking about the masculine gender, the male. So, we will use the word handsome. Disappointment was writ large on his handsome face. 3. The design on the hand woven shawl was dash. We have the synonyms exquisite and ravishing. The right word to use, the appropriate word to use here would be exquisite, beautiful, delicate. The design on the hand woven shawl was exquisite, very delicate and beautiful. Ravishing also means beautiful, but ravishing is used with uh, the to describe the physical beauty of a woman, maybe. Okay, so ravishing beauty. Okay, when you're talking about a hand woven shawl, you would use the word exquisite rather than ravishing. Let's look at the fourth fill in the blank. The celebrations were followed by a dash of fireworks of display. The celebrations were followed by a dash fireworks display. You have the synonyms are spectacular and delectable. So which would you use? You would use the word spectacular. The celebrations were followed by a spectacular fireworks display because it shows the grandeur of the firework display. Delectable would be, more appropriate if it was something to eat. If you were describing food cuisine, then delectable would have been an appropriate word. Look at the fifth fill in the blank or gap fill. The sunrise at Kanyakumari is dash. Beguiling and gorgeous are the two synonyms. So, which is the appropriate word you would use? The sunrise at Kanyakumari is gorgeous. Okay, you would use the word gorgeous. Beguiling is something that would attract in a kind of, it has a negative connotation, and a sunrise doesn't have a kind of negative connotation. So the context, connotation, all these are very, very important. Let's go to the gap fill 6. The peacock is a very showy bird with dash plumage. Resplendent or comely? Which would you use? Resplendent. That is beautiful, exotic. Comely also is a description, okay, a physical description, but it has connotation of ordinary. But then when you're talking about peacock and it's a showy bird, so you would use the word resplendent. Let's move to the seventh fill in the blank, which is each feather of the peacock is tipped with an dash eye spot. So it's a description of the peacock feather. Each feather of the peacock is tipped with an dash eye spot. Iridescent or alluring? Iridescent is colorful and alluring is something that's very attractive. So which word would you use? Think of how the eye in the peacock in the peacock feather looks. It is very bright and colorful. So the appropriate word would be iridescent, even though it, alluring or attractive looks okay, but then we are talking about the feather and the how the eye spot in the feather looks. So iridescent would be a more appropriate word in this context. The eighth fill in the blank. The handmade chocolates were dash. Now look at the two synonyms, delectable and dazzling. Dazzling again is attractive. Delectable, like we earlier had the example there, it has to do with food. So when you're talking about chocolates, you will use the word delectable. It comes from delicious, tasty, that way. Now look at 9. The village by the sea offers dash shops and restaurants. Again, alluring and admirable. Alluring meaning attractive, admirable also means attractive. But what is the right word in this context? Okay, the village by the sea. So imagine a village by the sea shops and restaurants, will it be alluring or admirable? You know, both means attractive. So the appropriate word here would be alluring. It is tempting you, it is attracting you, you know, to go to these restaurants, to go to these shops, rather than admirable, which would be, you know, has the connotation of awe, you know. So it's not so much of awe that the shops and restaurants invoke in you. It is rather an attraction that you want to go do your shopping or eat something at these restaurants. So you know, when you get these kind of fill in the blanks or gap fills, and you have these choices, try to, these are synonyms, both meaning almost the same thing. You need to use the appropriate word. So put it in context and see which is more appropriate, and then it becomes easy for you to pick the right word. The 10th gap fill is Banaras presents a dash maze of narrow streets. Banaras, now we are talking of the city, presents a dash maze. Maze would be a crisscross, okay, of narrow streets. So this should conjure up the image of Banaras and its narrow streets. Now you have two words, statuesque and picturesque. Now, which word would you use? Picturesque is, you know, very dramatic and very you know, attractive looking, you know, very dramatic looking. Statuesque is also very dramatic looking, but then you describe a statue or a physical, you know, a statue would be statuesque. A person can be described as statuesque. It has more to do with a physical description. Picturesque would be looking, you know, very dramatic. So Banaras with its narrow streets would be picturesque rather than statuesque. So do you see, it's very easy, you know, to make pick up the wrong word, but then when you put it in context and try it out, you know, you, and then you try to imagine, also use your creativity and imagination, you will be able to make the right choice. Now let's move on to exercise 2, again for synonyms. Let's look at what are the directions that have been given. These are exercises from your textbook. From the words given in the box, choose the most appropriate synonym for the words in italics. So the words are given in italics and you have to substitute it with the most appropriate synonyms. First, let's take a look at all the words that have been given to us. And this is very important because it helps you with pronunciation. If you don't, when you know, read it aloud once, and if you don't know the meaning of any of the words, you could look up the dictionary and, you know, note it down, ask the teacher, ask your friends, so you know what the words mean. So then it becomes easier for you to pick up the appropriate synonyms. Let's look at the words first. Vacant, weak, awful, historic, complete, polite, baffling, secure, loyal, annoyed. So these are the words that have been given to us. So just take a minute or two and see if you know what each of these words mean. If you don't know what it means, you must have a dictionary. You must look up the dictionary. I think most English teachers carry a dictionary to the classroom, even if all of you all don't carry. And if your teacher gives you permission, I know all of you all have smartphones. Take permission from your teacher and Google the meaning so that you know what it is. So you could write down the meaning of the word, the synonym, and then you could go ahead to do your exercise. Okay, let's do the exercise. The first one, the dog is a faithful animal. So from the list, we need to pick up a word which is a synonym for faithful. So which is the word that we will pick up? Loyal. Okay? The dog is a loyal animal. The dog is a faithful animal. Number 2, the man was old and looked frail. Frail. So we have to pick up a synonym for frail. So which is the word we'll pick up? We'll pick up weak. W-E-A-K. Weak. The man was old and looked frail. The man was old and looked weak. Let's move on to the third gap fill. Being courteous costs you nothing. So we need a synonym for the word courteous from the words that have been given to us. So which is the word that we will pick up? Which is the synonym of the word courteous? Polite. So we'll pick up the word polite. Being courteous costs you nothing. Being polite costs you nothing. Let's move on to the fourth gap fill. The huge mansion looked empty. So we need a word, a synonym for empty. So which is the word that we are going to pick up from the words that have been given to us? We'll pick up the word vacant. The huge mansion looked empty. The huge mansion looked vacant. Okay, let's move on to the fifth one. The police ensured that the street was safe. We need an appropriate synonym for the word safe from the list of words that has been given to us. So what are we going to pick up? Let's just have a look at all the words that have been given to us. Let's pick up secure. The, the police ensured that the street was safe. The police ensured that the street was secure. So do you see how you're doing this? Okay. So put the word, if you don't know the meaning of the words that have been given, then you need to use a dictionary and then find the meaning out. So then it would become easy for you to substitute with the appropriate synonym. Let's move on to the sixth gap fill. He was bothered by loud music. So we need an appropriate synonym for bothered. So let's look at the list of words and let's pick up annoyed. He was annoyed by loud music. Let's look at the seventh gap fill. The juggler's tricks were confusing. So we need a synonym from the list for confusing. The juggler's tricks were confusing. The juggler's tricks were baffling. So the synonym for confusing is baffling. 8. The city was hit by a terrible storm. So we now need to find a synonym for the word terrible. Okay, the city was hit by a terrible storm. So let's look at the list of words. And yes, let's pick up the word awful. The city was hit by a awful storm. So we may have to make a change here for the article. A terrible storm is okay, but an awful storm. So we need to take care of those things also. So while substituting with the synonym, we are using the word awful, and awful will take an. So the city was hit by an awful storm. But a terrible storm is correct. But when you substitute it with awful, we need to an awful storm. Okay. 9. A huge crowd had gathered on the momentous occasion. So we need an appropriate synonym for momentous. So let's look at the list. We just have 2 words left in the list. So it's historic. A huge crowd had gathered on the historic occasion. So momentous and historic synonyms. 10. This is not an exhaustive list of synonyms. So for exhaustive, we need a synonym, and the only one left is complete, and complete is the most appropriate synonym. So we will use complete. This is not an exhaustive list of synonyms. We are going to use complete. So complete, we will have to change the article again. This is an exhaustive. So, and since we are going to use complete, which is a consonant sound k, so we will change it. This is not a complete list of synonyms. So students, be very careful. You just have to write it here, so that's okay. But in case you have to rewrite the sentence, then you will have to make sure that you are also taking care of the appropriate articles. Okay. Now let's do exercise 3 again to do with synonyms. Okay. What does exercise 3 tell us to do? What are the directions? In each of the following sentences, identify 2 words that have similar meanings. So in each of the 10 sentences, we will find two words that are synonyms, that have similar meanings, and we need to pick them out, underline them, okay, identify them. We have an example done for us. The unhappy ending of the story made us all sad. So we have unhappy and sad, which are synonyms. So we need to underline unhappy and sad. Shall we do the exercise, students? Are you clear? So each of the sentences will have two words which are similar in meaning, and we need to pick it out. So that's why, when you vocabulary, meaning, the best thing would be, of course, referring to a dictionary, but also understanding the words, the meanings in context. So that's what we are going to do. Let's do the first sentence. If I do my normal work, I will get my regular salary. So what are the two words here? If I do my normal work, I'll get my regular salary. So the two synonyms here are normal and regular. Okay, let's move on to sentence 2. If you throw the ball to the dog, it will toss it back to you. So look at the sentence carefully and see which are the two words that have similar meaning. You throw the ball to the dog and it will toss it back to you. So if you look at the sentence carefully and read it to yourself once or twice, you will know that it is throw and toss which are the words with similar meaning. Let's move on to sentence 3. You will find your way if you stay on the right path. You will find your way if you stay on the right path. So the two words with similar meaning are way and path. Okay? Fourth sentence, the stunt man leaped into the air and jumped over the fire. The stunt man leaped into the air and jumped over the fire. So the two words with similar meaning here are leaped and jumped. Let's look at sentence 5. If you listen carefully, you can hear the birds' song. So this is a easy one. Listen and hear are the words with similar meanings. Sentence 6. The gloomy day was marked by dark clouds. The gloomy day was marked by dark clouds. So which are the two words with similar meaning? Gloomy and dark. So you can underline it. 7. His hourly wages are much higher than my monthly salary. His hourly wages are much higher than my monthly wages. So let's pick up the two words that have similar meaning. It is wages and salary. Both the words mean the same thing. Let's look at sentence 8. The car's engine was noisy and the horn was loud. Which are the two words that have similar meanings here? Noisy and loud. Good. Let's move on to sentence number 9. The gang of robbers disappeared into the crowd. The gang of robbers disappeared into the crowd. So which two words have similar meaning? Gang and crowd. Gang also means a group of people. Crowd is also a group of people. Uh, let's look at sentence 10. Tread cautiously when you walk in the garden. Tread cautiously when you walk in the garden. Which are the two words which have similar meanings? Tread and walk. So do you see how there are hundreds and thousands of words in the English language which have similar meaning? So you can build your vocabulary by, developing your word base, and that will make you become effective communicators of the language. Your communication skills will be empowered with your, rich use of varied vocabulary. But always remember, use the right word in the right place, the appropriate word in the appropriate context. Now, we were talking about synonyms, words with similar meanings, and we now will move on to talking about antonyms. What are antonyms? Antonyms are the opposite of synonym. The opposite of synonym is antonym. Antonym is a word or phrase that is opposite in meaning to another word or phrase in the same language. Okay, it is the counterpart of synonym. For example, rich and poor. So the opposite of poor is rich, the opposite of swift is slow, and so on. Okay, so let's do some antonyms too, because antonyms are also a very important strategy to build your vocabulary. Let's do exercise 1 from your textbook. From the words given in the box, choose the most appropriate antonym for the words in italics. Just like we did with synonyms earlier, now we are going to do with antonyms, opposite words with opposite meanings. Okay, let's again read the words that are given to us for pronunciation. It will help us, help us be fluent. So fluency will in language will enhance if you read the words, so you'll get your pronunciation right. And for accuracy, you can look up the dictionary, ask your teacher, look at your cell phone if your teacher allows, and find the meanings of the word so that you will know which word to use in the right place. Let's read the words together. Praised, welcomed, explicit, early, secure, biased, wonderful, notorious, rough, handy. So these are the words, 10 words that has been given to us. So if you don't know how to pronounce some word, look at the dictionary, or even, Google has or your smartphones have apps that will pronounce the word for you, so you pick up the pronunciation. This way you will improve your fluency. And for accuracy, you will look up the dictionary, you will ask your teacher, again go to Google, your smartphones, the dictionary app, and find the meaning. So what are we going to do now? We're going to fill in, we are going to choose the appropriate antonyms, that is the opposite. Okay, we were doing synonyms, now we are doing antonyms. Both synonyms and antonyms are excellent activities to build your vocabulary. Let's do the first one. The fabric was very smooth. So we need an antonym, an opposite for smooth. So let's look at the list of words that's given to us and then pick up what is an antonym for smooth. Rough. The fabric was very rough. Do you get it? So we are smooth is the word that's been given, and now we need to pick up an antonym, an opposite word, meaning the opposite of smooth, and so we have picked up rough. Let's move to the second sentence. The desert was awful. We need an antonym for awful. So let's pick up wonderful. The desert was wonderful. Sentence 3, monsoon arrived late this year. We need an opposite, an antonym for late. So let's look at the list of words that's been given to us. Let's pick up the appropriate antonym, and that would be early. The monsoon arrived early this year. Fourth sentence, the umpire's decision was fair. We need an antonym, an opposite for fair. So let's look at the list of words that's given to us and pick up the most appropriate word that is opposite in meaning, and we pick up biased. The umpire's decision was biased. Biased, not fair. Let's move on to the fifth question. His inaction shows his tacit support. So, if you don't know what is the meaning of tacit, you need to look up what is the meaning of tacit, and then look up what you call, which is the word that means, which is what you call opposite in meaning. So, which would be the word which is Opposite to tacit. His inaction shows his tacit support. His inaction shows his explicit support. Tacit is undercover, not overt. Okay, so explicit would be the opposite. The sixth sentence, when the government changed, his position became precarious. Now, if you don't know the meaning of precarious, you need to first look up the meaning of precarious. Okay, so precarious means shaky. So what would be an opposite of precarious or shaky? Secure. So we would fill the blank, or the word we would choose is secure. When the garment changed, his position became secure. That would be the opposite. Seventh, the teacher berated the students on their performance. Now we need to look up the meaning of berated if we don't know, and then pick up the opposite. Berated is to be angry, shout, express displeasure. So the teacher berated the students for their performance. The opposite would be praise. The teacher praised the students for their performance. Look at sentence 8. The map is very inconvenient. So we need to pick up an opposite for the word inconvenient. What is the word we would pick up? Handy. The map is very handy, useful. Okay. Uh, the ninth sentence is, big cities are becoming famous for their pollution. So we need to pick up an opposite for famous and look at the list. By now we have very few words left that are there. That is one way to narrow it down, but that's not a good way to, pick the appropriate word to fill in a blank or choose an appropriate antonym. Always go to the context and, try to put the appropriate word based on the context. Big cities are becoming famous for their pollution. Now we need to remove famous and put an antonym there. So let's look at the words and pick up what is most appropriate. Notorious. Big cities are becoming notorious for their pollution. And the 10th sentence here is, the leader expelled the new entrants. The leader expelled the new entrants. Expelled would be to throw out. Okay. So the opposite of throw out would be welcome. So we will use the word welcome. The leader welcomed the new entrants. So did you see what was happening here? You have to pick up the appropriate antonym here and put it in the blanks that are provided. Okay, so that was exercise 1, antonyms. Now let's move on to exercise 2. Again, so that we are thorough with antonyms in the English language. Let's do exercise 2. Let's read what is the directions that are given to us. From the words given in the box, choose the most appropriate antonyms for the words in italics. Okay, so we have been given a word in italics in the sentence, and we have to pick up the most appropriate antonym or opposite and fill in the blank. Again, like I told you before, let's read the words for fluency and then look up the meanings of the words for accuracy, and even the words in italics also you can look up their meaning, so it becomes very easy for us to fill in the blanks. So let's look at the words that are given to us. Stale, diligent, triumphs, oblivion, retreats, vain, abolished, concealed, synthetic, exotic. So these are the 10 words that have been given to us, and we need to fill in the blanks with these words. So shall we do it, students? Let's do it together. The first sentence, while most schools should be established, child labor should be dashed. So now the word in italics is established, and we have to fill in the blank with an opposite. appropriate opposite or antonym. So let's look at the list and pick up the opposite of established. Okay. While more schools should be established, child labor should be abolished. Okay, that's the opposite of established. Let's look at sentence 2. When the army advances, moves forward, the enemy, what does it do? Retreats, goes back. Okay, so what happened in China? We all know what happened recently. Okay. 3, sentence 3. Only fools are dash, wise men remain modest. Modest is in italics. So we have to pick up in the opposite of modest from the list that is given to us. So what is the most appropriate antonym for modest from the list? It would be vain. Only fools are vain, wise men remain modest. Let's move on to the next sentence. Sentence 4. Natural dyes are eco-friendly, dash one are harmful. Natural is in italics, so we need the opposite or the antonym of natural from the list, and that would be synthetic. Natural dyes are eco-friendly, synthetic one are harmful. Are you getting a hang of it, students? So you need to know the meanings, you need to know the appropriate context, read the sentence once or twice, and then pick up the appropriate antonym and fill in the blank. And while you are doing it, always have your dictionary. It's always good to have your dictionary. And the other thing that I must tell you is all these exercises are important because you will be tested for your exams on these exercises. Okay, so pick up these words and appropriate it and personalize it. Let's move on. Sentence number 5. Sometimes the lazy ones prosper and the dash ones suffer. So we need the antonym for lazy. So the antonym or the opposite of lazy is diligent. Okay. Sometimes the lazy ones prosper and the diligent or the hardworking ones suffer. 6. The survival rate of indigenous plants is better than that of dash ones. Indigenous is in italics. Indigenous means native. Okay. So we need the opposite of indigenous. So indigenous is native plant. So what would be the word from our list? Exotic. So how we'll fill in the blanks. The survival rate of indigenous plants is better than that of exotic ones. Exotic, doesn't belong to the native soil or environment that has come from outside. 7. Many former heroes now live in dash for public memory is short. Many former heroes now live in dash for public memory is short. So we need the opposite of memory. What could be the opposite of memory? From the list that's given here, the most appropriate antonym would be oblivion. Many former heroes now live in oblivion. They are forgotten. They are not remembered because public memory is short. Let's move on to 8. Statistics are often used not to reveal but to dash the truth. Reveal is to show. So the opposite of reveal or show here from the list would be conceal. Statistics are often used not to reveal but to conceal the truth. Reveal is show, conceal means to hide. Okay, so we have used the opposite of reveal, which is conceal from the list. Number 9. Although marketed as fresh, the vegetables were pretty dash. So we need the opposite or the antonym for fresh, and that would be stale. Okay, although marketed as fresh, the vegetables were pretty stale. And the 10th sentence would be, neither defeats nor dash should affect us. Neither defeats nor dash should affect us. So the opposite of defeats or failure, what would it be? Triumphs, victory, should affect us. Neither defeats, which means defeat would be losing. Uh, you know, instead of the, and the opposite of defeat would be victory, and from here, from the list, you would pick up triumph. So neither defeats nor triumph should affect us. That was exercise 2 for you. So we have done the entire component vocabulary, synonyms and antonyms from unit 1 that is prescribed for you in semester 3. I hope you found it use. I hope you were able to understand how important it is for us to what do you call, build our vocabulary by incorporating synonyms and antonyms into our vocabulary. Thank you, students, for patiently listening to the video, and please use this video to prepare for unit 1 of semester 3. Thank you so much.